Hey everybody, it's TJ Maurer here with Complete Payroll, and welcome to another episode of PeopleWork, where we interview a variety of professionals throughout the human capital management industry on anything related to payroll, HR, labor law, anything related to managing a workforce and taking care of your people. Today, I am joined by Shane Edrington from Zayzoon out in what looks to be a very sunny Scottsville, Arizona day. Shane is here to talk to us about Payday Advances, how it's become an emerging trend in employee benefits, how it's different from a payday loan, which a lot of people think of when they hear Payday Advance, and how Shane's company can help employers offer a really unique benefit to help ease the financial burden for their employees in certain situations. So I'm really excited to get into all of this. But first of all, Shane, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So Shane, let's get right to it, because whenever we talk about Payday Advances, one of the first questions we ask is, well, isn't that shady? Isn't that illegal? And we obviously they're thinking of a payday loan. So what is the difference between a payday advance and a payday loan?
Sure. Well, they facilitate the same utility, right? So the payday loans came out of the pawn shop businesses, right? So you'd go to a pawn shop because you need a few $100, and you might give them your golf clubs for 5 days or a week, and they give you the money, and as long as you come back with the repayments, you get your golf clubs back. And after a while, those pawn shop guys and gals really determined that, why mess with the golf clubs when they could just take the money, charge you a really high fee, and you write them a check, and they just defer presenting that check to their bank for 2 weeks, right? And so from the point of the consumer, or the borrower in that case, they're getting their money and they pay it back in a very short time duration. So really, the utility is the same in terms when we talk about a payday advance, because they're getting money from their employer, or in this case from Zayzoon, and they're paying it back through our relation to the payroll company in a very short period of time. Could be a week, week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on their pay cycle. The main difference are all those egregious business practices and fees. So in the case of a payday loan store, you're paying anywhere from $15 to sometimes as high as $40 per $100 that you borrow. So you want to go get $500 to carry you through for a week and a half. It's going to cost you, $75 to $150, and then they don't actually want to be repaid because they're in the business of getting dollars on the street. So they want to actually have you roll those loans over pretty much in perpetuity. So what you end up with is paying some random local pawn store or payday loan store $100 in interest every 2 weeks just to carry your $500 advance. And so what we do is we partner with great partners like Complete Payroll to allow us the ability to offer payday advances in an environment that allows us to have a dramatically reduced fee structure. So $5 per transaction compared to that $100 or $150 they pay elsewhere.
Yeah, so actually, our CEO, Austin, and I were talking about this just the other day, and it was predicated on a conversation about how payday loans, which, most well-meaning people in our industry want absolutely no part of, the way you described it, really kind of trap people in a cycle of debt, which is really counterproductive to why they needed a loan in the first place. Maybe they had a medical bill or some other unexpected expense come up and they needed to access their funds before their payday. But with the really shady practices and the high interest loans, as you've described, it's really hard for them to get out of that. And so whereas in payday advances, what you do, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is you really just take advances of wages that you have already accrued, right, in terms of your payroll and your hours logged, and you just pay a small fee, not an interest rate, but a small fee to advance that, kind of like just going to an ATM, right, where maybe it's an out-of-network ATM, you pay a small transaction fee to access the money that technically is already yours.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we really give that analogy a lot, and we view ourselves as kind of an ATM to access earned but unpaid wages. It's an asset that belongs to the employee. It just doesn't get paid out, obviously, daily in most cases, because that would be a giant pain in the butt for employers. It's just not going to happen. But there's no reason why employees shouldn't have access to that. And to your point, I guess I would build upon this and say, I want to make it clear that employees don't want to go to payday loan stores. Nobody wants to go to that random shop that has bulletproof glass and they want to get a few $100. They need it for a very specific reason. They got to go through this whole rigmarole to get funds. They don't want to do that. They're not doing it to go on a vacation to Hawaii, or they're doing it because their kid broke their arm and they have a deductible at the emergency room, or they have a utility bill that's going to be shut off, or they blew a tire and they have to get to work. I mean, the major point is that they have to have those funds or else something bad happens. And so all you want to do is make sure they have a reasonable, respectful, and cheap, in this case, way to access that money without being put in a position to make their lives worse.
Yeah, so about, I would say 9-ish months ago, we were doing a little research, and we actually published an article on our blog about Walmart offering payday advances to its employees, and how payday advances is one of the new employee benefit trends in 2018 and going into 2019. Why do you think that payday advances is really kind of an emerging trend in the employee benefits sector?
Technology. I mean, that really is it. If you look at way back when, decades ago, when folks would get paid on the dock, cash in hand for the work they did that day, the only thing that prohibits that from happening now is really just that the payroll process, again, wasn't going to happen daily, right? So for the benefit of employers, it gets run, 85% of the time biweekly, the rest of the time either semi-monthly or monthly. In a few cases, I guess, still weekly for some employers. But for the most part, it's not going to be run daily just because it's too much of a hassle. The technology isn't there. Well, now with robust payroll platforms and payroll systems and APIs and third parties' ability to kind of bolt on and make this hassle-free, really responsibility and liability free for employers, you have these offerings that can occur pretty easily. And so now there's no reason why it shouldn't be live with all these payroll platforms and companies like Complete Payroll. So you're seeing it really take off in a lot of different employers' benefit offerings.
Yeah, and in the spirit of full disclosure, as you just kind of alluded to, we've recently informed a lot of our clients that Complete Payroll has partnered with Zayzoon to offer this payday advance solution to their employees. So why don't we use this opportunity to kind of shift gears? We've kind of talked about payday advances in general, how they differ from payday loans, why they've become kind of an emerging trend in the HR industry recently. Why don't you explain to us how this Zayzoon service works for employers that might be interested?
Sure. From the employer's perspective, and I'm not trying to minimize this just for a sales benefit, but I mean, really it is extremely simple. I mean, employers don't have to do a thing. We exist on a fully automated basis with our payroll partners, with Complete Payroll. And so if the employer wishes to have this live for their employees, all they really merely have to do is just request that it be turned on. From there, if they love the program and they want to push it and make sure their employees really know about it, then of course we love that. And we'll provide materials, break room posters, handouts, anything we can do to make sure the employees understand crystal clear how the program works and what it is. So that's the comment around employers. We really make life very easy. No agreement to sign, no liability, no nothing. When it comes to employees, they will access us through a link that they get either via email or from another marketing piece that they receive. They come into our system. They are asked to create a profile. It's very quick. The information they enter allows us to verify that they're part of Complete's, or under Complete's umbrella, one of the clients under Complete's umbrella. And with that information, they can then create that profile and they can instantly request an advance. So the system knows how much they've earned up to that given point in time. In some cases, or in a lot of cases, it is an assumptive number, right? We know what they tend to make per day. So we'll give them access to a portion of those earned wages. If they would like to request an advance, all they do is, say how much, up to $200. There's a $5 transaction fee. And we actually fund that advance directly from us to them into any bank account that they choose. And we actually ride the debit card rail. So they'll enter in a debit card information into our system via kind of creating a wallet, like is very common with many virtual financial products these days. They'll create a wallet, and we can fund through that debit card information instantly. So it could be 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve, and they're going to have their money in their account in a matter of seconds. Our customer service staff that's available via chat on our website is actually trained. Once somebody kind of goes through that process, quite often they'll say, okay, when is the money going to be in my account? And our staff is trained to say, just check your account. because quite often it's just there instantly. Once that's done, they have their funds. The employer has done nothing in that scenario. We will then make sure that a deduction or direct deposit split is imported into the payroll system so that we get repaid on the next payday. So if they took $200 and there's a $5 fee, $205 will get repaid to us automatically, nothing on the part manually from the employer or anything like that. We get repaid automatically on the next payday, and that's it. They're free to request another advance if they choose. No ongoing fees, no maintenance fees, no interest, nothing like that.
So you kind of alluded to $200. Is there a cap of how much an employee can take in advance from their accrued wages at any given point in time?
So they can take whatever amount they have available to them, right? So if they've earned, say they've earned $1,000, and let's just say for this particular employee, we allow 50% of earned wages to be accessed. That kind of gets to be a little bit of a risk assessment based upon their profile. Are they seasonal? Are they full-time? Have they been there for 2 weeks? Have they been there for 6 months? Et cetera. So it's somewhere between the 50 and 75% mark. But let's just say they have $500 that they could access. They could choose to take out the $500 if they wanted to, but it's very much like that ATM analogy, right? So we allow up to $200 per transaction, and there's a $5 fee for that transaction. So again, imagine you're at a concert and you want to go to the ATM to get cash because that's all that the venue will accept. And so you go to the ATM. Well, you're going to be smart about, I don't want to just pull out $20 and pay $3 fee or $5 fee and then come back 5 minutes later and pay another fee. You're going to take out what you think you need and be smart about what you do with that withdrawal. And so we see the same thing. We see employees taking out maybe on average $160 or in that range. They're not taking out the full boat every time. They're taking out what they require, paying their $5 transaction fee, and then they might not use this again for weeks down the road.
Now, forgive me if I missed this. You said that it takes virtually nothing on behalf of the employer to provide this to their employees. They just need to request that it be turned on. And then if they want to inform their employees, you guys can step in and give them materials of all sorts to let them know that this benefit is available to them. So It doesn't take much, if any, of their time. What about cost? Does this, I understand this doesn't cost anything to employers. Explain that.
Yeah, no cost to employers, no liability. So we always get the question, what happens if an employee owes money and they get terminated, right? Or if our system is wrong and we assume they've made money and they haven't made that much and we allow them access to their funds. In all those circumstances, our relationship is between us and the employee. So if for whatever reason the employee, if we don't get repaid through payroll, then we'll contact the employee and say, hey, looks like we didn't get repaid through payroll. Let's just figure out another option to repay that advance. But in no way is there any liability put on the employer to handle that process.
Okay. So from what I understand, it's no cost to the employer. It only requires their request that it be turned on to be access to the employee. Then all of a sudden, any of their employees can request advances, can take advances by creating a profile in your system. They can advance up to $200 at a time for a fee of $5 for every $200 advanced. Is that correct? Am I missing anything?
That's correct. Yep.
What else is important for people to know about this?
I would say that from the employer perspective, because again, as you outlined that, again, no cost, no liability, nothing they have to do. All those things make it seem really, really easy. So I think in my conversation with employers, I think oftentimes it needs to be made clear that employees actually really need and value this service more so than employers might think. I think sometimes there's an assumption that maybe only a few, 5%, right, say, of employees actually use payroll advances, but it's actually a very large population of employees. 75% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. It's a very depressing stat, but it is what it is. And so anybody in that realm that encounters a situation where they are waiting for their next paycheck and their electricity is going to be shut off, or they have that tire, but whatever it is, whatever the emergency expense is, they're going to get funds from somewhere. And so if you don't have a program like this in place, you're either going to have to give it to them or choose, whether or not to give it to them yourself as the employer, which that has liability there, right? Do you say yes to some people, no to others? Do you want to be a collector? Those kinds of issues. Or you're telling them, hey, we're not going to do a thing, and kind of good luck to you with those payday loan stores or the pawn shops, or maybe you just send a check to utility just to kind of appease them, but then you bounce and you pay overdraft fees. Overdraft fees are even more egregious in many cases than payday loan shops are. So it makes a lot of sense just to give employees a good choice, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's very clear, and I can definitely understand the benefit. Obviously, speaking as a member of Complete Payroll, we decided to partner with you guys and offer this solution to our clients and their employees for a reason. I think that's very clear, and I really appreciate you explaining all of this, Shane. What we're going to do is we're also going to drop a link to our product page that explains our Payday Advance solution. I'll also drop a link to some of your contact information in case any employer is seeing this and maybe has a question for you. But aside from that, Shane, any parting words, any words of wisdom for whether it be us, our clients, any other employers or payroll partners out there that may be watching and maybe considering a Payday Advance solution?
No, I would just say, obviously, I think taking advantage of a lot of the technology that's in place now that really can make benefit platforms and payroll platforms, HR platforms, extremely robust and offer employees a great deal of benefit without any cost. I mean, look at not just Payroll Advances, although that's my world, obviously, but look at all these programs and things that you can do, and don't just assume that there's going to be complexities or costs or liabilities or those kinds of things. Really look at them, because there's a lot of great things out now that are available to employers. And I would just approach 2019 with an open mind as to what you can really offer employees.
Excuse me, I think that's a great word of advice for anybody in any industry. Approach 2019 with an open mind. So on that, we'll close. Shane, thank you so much for joining us. I think this was super valuable, and hope to talk to you soon.
Definitely. Thank you very much.